Okay. I want to welcome everyone coming into the August Homeless Prevention and Response System meeting, and posted as our agenda. First, we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement, formal statement recognizing the indigenous people of a place is a public gesture and appreciation for the past and the present indigenous stewardship of the lands that we occupy. So we, as the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness and the HPRS Advisory Council, would like to acknowledge that we gathered today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascan. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina have been and continue to be stewards of this land. It is with gratefulness and respect that we recognize the contributions, innovations, and contemporary perspective of the Upper Cook Inlet Dena'ina. We always like to start our meeting setting us off well with a mission moment. And I didn't have anyone kind of queued up, but if anybody has a mission moment that they would like to bring forward, I know we would all like to celebrate and some positives of this work.
Allison, this is Jessica. If there isn't anyone else that wanted to share something, I would just reshare that I shared at the work session that we held this month's mini project Homeless Connect yesterday, and served 177 people over the course of the afternoon. We had some wonderful partners joining us. We had showers available. Central Lutheran opened up their clothing closet. We had clothing available. We had haircuts available. There were food options. We had a Reiki provider.
Wow.
That was doing Reiki services. I'm embarrassed to admit that I have no clue what that is, but it looked super relaxing. And it was just a wonderful time. But one of the things I really wanted to highlight is that in those interactions, we had 27 new clients. So 27 people that had had no interactions previously with HMIS. And it's incredible, but also really heartening to know that we were able to be there and we were able to have that contact, get that information to them, and hopefully get them routed quickly and making this a very brief instance of homelessness. Thank you so much, Julia. It was very interesting. I do have some pretty cool pictures from there that are non-identifying, but I think captured the serene space that had been created back in the lawn. It was a really great time, and I was really happy to see so much engagement and so many people, and I hope we have more people join us next month and then in October.
Thanks, Jessica. And I would just like to add that last week I was able to go to Bethel, and part of the Anchorage community, we were partners with CORE and Volunteers of America for the YHDP several years ago. And it was amazing because last week I was able to go witness how Covenant House and CORE in Bethel, along with Tundra Women's Coalition and the Bethel Winter Home, were able to open their first home for young people age 18 to 24. And there are 7 young people that are housed and have vouchers. And it's an amazing thing to watch how this community is helping balance of state, but yet we are Alaska, right? And so it was just wonderful to watch young people in their new homes, and reminding me that they were the only ones that had the code to get into their door. They were most proud of the fact that they each had their own private code. So the importance of that in safety and space. So it was a wonderful experience. So next we're going to go over some of our chair reports. We just had some updates from our committee chairs. First committee update was on coordinated entry. Julia is leading that effort. And really the work is still being done on the selection of the right tool. Prioritization really shapes the ability for one person and a degree of vulnerability, and our efforts to have the most vulnerable housed. And yet a tool that previously had been used was really felt that it did not adequately reflect and was therefore systemically racist in its ability to identify vulnerability. So we're really excited that Julia is leading that effort, and we're still looking for the right tool, reaching out to other committees. So we'll keep you all posted on what is our next steps with that. Next, we talked a little bit about compliance. Compliance is in full swing now as a committee that is overseeing our CoC Continuum of Care and the scoring of the applications that are submitted on behalf of the CoC. The applications are starting to be dispersed to that group beginning the end of August, like around the 28th, and then results coming back around the 5th of September. So we'll definitely keep you posted. You can also find more information and updates on the coalition website for anyone looking for information on the CoC. And last but not, well, actually, the community prioritization, Katie reported, and she might not be on this, but she was on her. Oh, there she, I see her kind of back on here. But really, the community prioritization, while they might have had a little bit of a summer reprieve, are now back kind of in full swing. And that is the committee of this council that is working on Anchored Home and some of the projects with the Anchored Home. Next, data. And Sharon is reporting out on data, and I'm not sure anything other than they're reviewing the data, and they are on top of our data. And so very much so a committee that looks at the information. And one of the positives that Sharon reported out is in the past, we'd had some challenges, and even the scoring and reporting of things as a community coming together to really improve on our data. We've moved some, less than positives. I think she even used the word E or F to some A's that are now, as our group is kind of coming together, and we're able to make sure that the data that we need to accurately reflect our community is being reviewed. I think that has covered it, unless any of the committee chairs, if I've missed anything that you would like to call out. That being said, I'm going to ask the coalition to kind of give us government updates and some operational updates.
Thank you, Allison. Government updates. I will start there, and we'll just quickly share that there was a assembly meeting on Tuesday and a Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting last Wednesday. So to share out of those two meetings, there was lots of conversation about the Anchorage Health Department plan for emergency cold weather shelter, which was presented by the homeless coordinator, Alexis Johnson, and she made that same presentation to the work session earlier today. So it is great that that planning is happening. That plan is out, and now the process works towards refining that and lining up the provider and the provider of the rooms. But the emergency cold weather shelter plan for this upcoming winter is to focus on a non-congregate model, which is really exciting. And in response to their RFI, they did get responses that would add up to over 200 units or rooms to be available. So that will now turn into a process where that will start to go through the contract space there. At the Tuesday assembly meeting, there was a resolution that was open for public hearing back in, I believe, the end of June, that was back in front of the assembly for consideration. And this was for the proposed shelter and navigation center that would be on the corner of Tudor and Elmore. After some debate, the vote was not in favor of that. So the vote was a no on that particular facility. However, the assembly then did lay an item on the table that would take some of the funding that had been identified as potential funding sources for some of that to be put forward for use for the emergency cold weather shelter plan, since that plan currently did not have any funding appropriated towards it. It was just a plan. So that will be in front of the assembly next month and be open for public hearing at that time as well. So those are the big things that were happening on the government side. Some things that had happened in previous periods on the government side that are now moving forward. The Clean Slate Initiative, those town halls will likely be starting up again this fall to be able to take those considerations for keys to effective shelter and bringing that to a town hall session where members of the public and providers are able to come together and have discussion about what those next steps are towards establishing potential locations or potential operational plans for a permanent or year-round shelter. So keep an eye on the Anchorage Municipality of Anchorage website, and there is a page there that is specific to the housing and homelessness work that the Assembly and the administration are working on, which has updates to all of those meetings and all of the documents from there. On operational updates, very happy to share that the coalition has extended an offer of employment, which was accepted for our new coordinated entry specialist. That position was vacant when Trish Franco left ACH for a job with the state. So we have made that offer. It was accepted to Ziona Brownlow, who you may know from her work at the library in the past. So excited to have her on board. She'll be starting next week. And I shared it during the mission moment, but just sharing that the coordination of the street outreach services has been really wonderful this summer, wonderful to see, and have loved having the interactions with providers that are providing those street outreach services along with the work adjacent to the street outreach teams, and working on planning the last few mini project Homeless Connects to round out this fall as we go into the winter plan. I'm available for any questions. If you have them now, you can unmute and ask them. You can ask them in the chat, or as always, you can reach out to me via email or give me a call, and you can always get information that way as well.
Thanks, Jessica. Do we have any questions for Jessica? If you do, make sure they're really, really hard.
Really hard.
Really hard. Okay, now we have a special presentation. And I wonder if it's going to be Jessica again, but talking about the NOFO.
Yep, definitely going to be me again. Unless, did Taria hop on? No, pretty sure it's me. So really just wanted to have this space here. At the last meeting, we talked about the NOFO process, and that that process had been launched. We did have an application launched. The application due date is tomorrow. We did have all existing grantees file an intent to renew. So expecting renewal applications from all of our current grantees, along with the opportunity for bonus projects, both in the general CoC category and the domestic violence bonus projects. So we had two opportunities for bonus projects this year, and crossing my fingers that we get some good bonus applications. And then, as always, or maybe not as always, but as in the past few years, also have the opportunity for new projects to come in and be scored alongside our existing projects. The next phase after the application process closes tomorrow is a cycle called rank and review. So what happens at that point is there is a committee. It is the core of the committee is our compliance committee, along with other members of the advisory council or other members of the CoC who might be interested in serving on that rank and review committee. And what they do is review the narrative responses to the applications and score those applications. And then the committee comes together and those scores are all added up and the projects are ranked. And the way the funding for the CoC works is there are tier 1 funds and tier 2 funds. And so a percentage of our funds are categorized as tier 1, and then the remaining are categorized as tier 2. So once those rankings are done, they get lined up against that funding. Traditionally, there is at least one, well, there can only be one. Traditionally, there's a project that ends up straddling that tier 1 and tier 2. So a portion of the project will be tier 1, and then a portion of the project will be tier 2. All of those grantees that get selected through that rank and review process to be part of tier 1 or tier 2 will be notified, and then they will go through a process where they have to take all of that application information about their project and enter it into eSnaps. So that is a HUD system that is, like many government systems, a real fun system to be in. So we will also be hosting 3 weekly eSnaps technical assistance sessions where agencies that might be having issues getting their information into eSnaps, so either technical issues or issues where it didn't quite fit the way they wanted it to, they can attend those technical assistance sessions. At the same time that's happening, we are working on our collaborative application or our community application. So one of the way the funding works, we take all of those project applications and we bundle them all together for our community application. And that will get scored against the entire United States applications. And that's how our bonus projects get funded there. So the stronger our community application is, the more likely that our bonus projects will be selected for funding. And that's really important because when we have bonus projects that are selected for funding, they become part of our core funding. So they don't have to reapply the next year as another bonus project. They will be a renewal project in future years. So it's really important for us to have as strong of a collaborative application and community application as we can, because the more bonus projects that get funded, the larger our base becomes. And then we can just keep funding bonus projects year after year and keep increasing that base of funding that we have available. So I'm going to look and see, I do see Katie on, so I might call on Katie here for a minute in her role, not as an advisory council member, but her work with Agnew Beck. And what ACH has done this year is contracted with Agnew Beck to help with the administrative side of putting together this application, and particularly this community application or collaborative application. And what we are doing is scheduling community work sessions where we will pull people together to work on the areas of the application that we had space to improve on. So we get our scoring every year, and we're able to go through that and look at the sections of the application that we didn't score 100% on. And there's some where we only missed a few points, and there's some sections where we missed a lot of points. And so those are places where we're going to want to focus and improve our collaborative application. And Katie, please feel free to jump in if I missed something, but if you wouldn't mind, if you could share a little bit about how that community engagement is planned for the upcoming month. The application is due at the end of September. So we have a little over a month to get that information together. Once all of that is complete, the whole thing will get published, and then will come to the advisory council for your approval of the application before it is submitted.
Awesome. I think that was a great summary, Jessica. I can talk a little bit about our role. So my colleague Curtis is really sort of the main project manager on this. I'm just helping out a little bit, but as Jessica mentioned, part of what we've done is gone through and identified in particular those sections of the collaborative application where we lost the most points last year, and then kind of zooming in on specific questions, whether related to outreach or sort of the integration of healthcare and homelessness. I think one thing that's exciting is that my sense in talking with Jessica and Taria is that on a lot of the questions where we scored lower last year, we have progress to report on, and we have content to put in that, demonstrates work in those areas. So one thing that we'll be doing is actually helping with the back end, just population of content and tracking kind of content across last year's application to this year's, and then really hopefully making the most compelling kind of complete cohesive narrative. And so that's one piece of our work. And then also, as Jessica mentioned, I know there was discussion out of last year's process about wanting more touch points to engage. And my sense is that often this has looked like getting provider input or content on really specific questions, but less on the overarching kind of what is the story that we're telling about Anchorage, what are we highlighting. And so the goal is to have a community engagement session on September 8th, and then another one, I think, on the 15th. And so those will be opportunities to both sort of debrief from last year and then talk about this year's collaborative application more holistically. And so that'll be sort of an open invitation with more details to come. I can put my email address in the chat as well. I think the more, obviously a tight timeline, as it always feels like with this, but the more engagement and input, the better. And there'll be a lot more to come on timing and plans for those sessions. And then also some additional TA sessions scheduled for more of the technical side as well. Is that helpful, Jessica? Is there anything else you want me to touch on?
No, I think that was great. And I really just wanted this to be an opportunity to share with the group where we were at in the process, what was upcoming, where there were opportunities for engagement by members of the advisory council, by members of the public, and really just wanting to invite feedback on that and invite people to share ideas they may have or concerns they may have, and make sure that we are able to capture as much of that as we can. I will share that a few places where I know we're looking to strengthen the application. One of them was around the street outreach engagement. That was a part last year where we didn't have the coordinated street outreach like we do now. And so it was a pretty weak part of our application last year. And I'm looking forward to having that be a much stronger portion of our application with the involvement of our partners at Covenant House, at Beans Cafe, at Rural Cap and the community partners that have engaged with us around the outreach efforts, if not as an actual street outreach team, to make that a much stronger part of our application. The second place where we're really looking to strengthen that community application is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So really looking forward to community discussions about innovative things that providers are doing, so that we can look at how we as a community can strengthen how we approach our work and provide those services in a way that really does bring equity to the forefront.
Thanks. Thanks, both of you. That was a great explanation of a very complicated, tentacly project, process, which is the whole NOFO. So thanks both for that. I don't see any questions in the chat. Is there any member of the community that would like to come off mute and ask any questions to either about the NOFO process? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, you guys got off good. So now is our time for any members or public comment. You have, like to remind you, you have 3 minutes. So there you go. We have one. Roger.
Yeah, I was wondering if this would be a good time to do my 3-minute speech I had all prepared, because it's kind of timely.
There you go. You got 3 minutes.
Appreciate you. We've come a long ways in recent years towards solving this issue that is homelessness, and now is the time to actually do so. The AKHMIS is a tool we have invested significant resources into for good cause. With this tool, we can finally track resources invested to actual outcomes. But like all tools, it is only effective if we use it. We need to use it. We have also gained significant insight into the complex interplay between mental health, substance misuse, and trauma. However, the stigmas around mental health abound in the larger community, and those stigmas are amplified into the camps where substance misuse is openly tolerated as a way of dealing with mental health issues and self-medicating. Substance misuse, from alcohol to opiates and methamphetamines, are not effective at treating mental health issues, to include the traumas people have experienced in life, which are also concentrated and are occurring in the camps. We need to use this knowledge, and now is the time to complete the good works that we have started. I was in camp the other day waiting on a young couple who had agreed to help me move a bulky item that I needed help with. They were late, and as I waited, I got into a social media conversation with a Muni employee and a service provider about the ethics involved in exploiting the individual stories of folks in recovery by creating essentially poster children with paths to recovery, which are not widely available to all, most, or even many. In that conversation, I pointed out that we are having near, if not actual, daily deaths in camp. Just a few minutes later, a gentleman came running from deep within camp screaming to open the gates, let the paramedics in, as someone had just overdosed. Though they made a valiant attempt to save a life, the paramedics were too late, and the young man was dead. I had a trauma response in that moment, which started with this guttural release that kind of turned into a scream and proceeded from there. I'll spare the rest of the details, as it is time to move on and focus on those who are still here, myself included. I need to heal from my trauma, but now I realize that healing will not come so long as folks are still needlessly suffering and dying. Yet folks are still needlessly suffering and dying. But here's the good part. During the ordeal, which was Centennial Camp 2022, I positioned myself to simply be a conduit through which good could flow, with no preconceived notion of how that would manifest or conclude. About the time of the first overdose death in Centennial, someone showed up in camp looking to hand out burritos and asking nothing in return. The burritos were good, and in that season, my simple desire to be a conduit was fulfilled in a myriad of ways, with community donations and tangible goods flowing like water, which sustains life but never quite being received in the spirit of unconditional love the way those burritos were. With that, this concept of serving without agenda, of feeling a need for no other reason than someone needs to do it, took root. That effort continues, and those who wish to participate are currently stepping up and doing so. I'd like to say it is a beautiful thing, but people are still dying. This underground effort has been a successful pilot, which calls to be immediately implemented systemically, so that we, as a community that is Anchorage, that is Alaska can model this rad concept of true unconditional love. If it is to be, we have to do it as one, which is why I would seek this position. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Do we have any more on public comment? Okay, next let's go into some good news and celebrations. I would say thanks, Julia, for putting in the chat the article about the first youth service housing in Bethel in their history. So thanks for putting that article. It's a great article. And it definitely took a village. Any other good news or celebrations? I will say on September the 6th from 1 to 6, Covenant House is hosting an open house. And to your point, Roger, one of the things that we're doing is we actually are passing out to any community members free Narcan kits and training. So if you need access to Narcan kits, feel free to come to our open house. And we'll have those available with some additional training for people in accepting the kits.
You know, what we probably need is just some more trainings in camp themselves. They don't seem to be deploying them, or they're waiting to deploy them until the folks actually stop and breathe. And that's been a factor in the last 2 or 3 deaths that I was aware of. But
Yeah.
yes, thank you. More
Yeah,
awareness.
Julia, we're happy to help too, Roger, send out people to help for train, but we're also happy to get you kits. I mean, I literally have 100 sitting in my office right now. So
Yeah,
if you want to get some and some training, or Julia, if you want to help with it, I'm happy to help facilitate that.
I'll hook up with you, and there are a lot of folks who have had training that might not need the full kit, but I'll talk offline with that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
No, actually, I was going to unmute to say, first of all, please include me in that offline conversation. I'd love to come and do a group training for people that are living in camp so that they can then train one another.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, this isn't good news, but I just want to honor some of the information that Roger shared in there, and some of the information that I know we are all holding around ongoing deaths within our community, especially of our unhoused relatives. And I think that is sometimes related to substance misuse, as Roger outlined, but it is also related to many other barriers that are facing people in our community. I hope that we can find a way to be able to grieve together in a broader scale and amplify what people are experiencing as they continue to grieve their loved ones while continuing to experience homelessness, because it's about those of us that are left behind as well.
Thanks, Julia. Any other comments? Good news? I think the rain stopped. Does that qualify for the moment? Anyway, why don't we put back up our next advocacy opportunities? So you can see the hand commission on September the 6th. You can come to the orientation, get your Narcan kit, and then go to the hand commission, make it a big afternoon. Also on Tuesday, September the 12th is the regular assembly meeting. Wednesday, the 20th is the Committee on Housing and Homelessness. That's a city hall meeting. And Monday, the 26th, the hand commission is the Housing and Neighborhood Development Commission. And the next are the 26th, we have the regular assembly meeting back in the Lusac Library. And then Thursday, the 28th is our next meeting of the Advisory Council.
Allison, just a quick note on that. I do believe we are going to be rescheduling that Thursday, the 28th meeting, in order to vote on the NOFO application. So
Got
it'll probably be 2 to 3 days prior on that Tuesday or so, but we'll get that information out as soon as we shore up that date.
Thank you. So we will make sure that we get the information out to you as to when is our next meeting. Thank you for those that joined in on the public participation. And I'm gonna give us a pause to see if anybody else wants to bring any comments forward. Julie, I think it's a great idea to ask the Alaska Native Heritage Center about that. You know, one of the things we might do is that we host our candlelight vigil there. And part of that is also remembering those that we've lost. And maybe there is a way that, since we already have that space reserved, that we might think about helping to do that. But thank you.
I can also reach out to the Native Heritage Center.
Yeah.
Some of you know that part of my previous work was doing bereavement camps for young people in our community. And I'm participating in an event with Hospice of Anchorage and Providence Hospice also in November. So
That's great.
Allison, let's you and I talk offline and see what the best tactic would be to go with the Heritage Center.
Yeah, that's great. Well, maybe the good news is I'm going to give you guys back 15 minutes of your day. So, if I don't have any other comments, then I'm going to thank you again for attending. And again, like it says, thank you for all you do. I thank each and every one of you for caring and making this not just an issue, making this a part of who you are and how we care about vulnerable people in our community. Okay. Thank you. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks all.
Have a good one.
Everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.